So everybody did their part. That's why we're where we are now. But to go or to do the other half of the way, we need people to keep taking their part of the risk.
Thank you. Look, I think the first reality we have to recognize is that everything in the Middle East is connected. Whether you talk about Palestine, Syria, Lebanon, all come together in terms of what causes tension to happen and the impact of positive progress. Number two, what happens in the Middle East does have a major impact on our neighbors in Europe. We are one region in reality, and we've seen that manifested through the impact of crises that we've had to live with. And I go back to my initial statement. There is a moment of opportunity if everybody do what they need to do to make sure that we are on a track that will give people hope of a promise of a better future where their legitimate concerns will be addressed. So, on Palestine, Gaza, I said there's a ceasefire now. Everybody has an interest in that ceasefire holding. But remember, the challenges are enormous. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people in Gaza who lost literally everything. Their homes, their schools, their hospitals, their neighborhoods, everything. So unless we come in together in a massive effort to start addressing those immediate needs, I think we're going to have suffered a tremendous failure as an international community. So we've got to do that. Number two, we need to watch the West Bank, and what's happening in the West Bank should not be allowed to lead to what has happened in Gaza. I.e., we cannot afford another war on the West Bank.
This is a national security issue.
This is a national security issue for Jordan, and it's also, I mean, a matter of grave security concerns for the whole region and the whole world. Yeah. So, again, what do we need to do? I think everybody knows what needs to be done. Let's think of a solution which will address the legitimate rights of both people. What is that solution? I think the majority of the world agree that the two-state solution is the answer. In the past, that solution has been paid much lip service, but no real action. On the grounds, we're seeing unilateral measures by Israel that rendering the two-state solution unviable, expansion of settlements, land grabs, suffocation of the PA. That is not conducive to peace. And I think, yes, Netanyahu government could speak of some military victories, but I think what we need to do is to think long-term. How do we create a Middle East in which everybody is safe and secure? You're not going to do that by security. You only do that by a political solution, and that's why I agree completely with John Noel. We need to have a plan to implement the two-state solution.
Let me just put this to you, because I do want to bring everybody back in. I mean, you know, the West Bank is a national security issue to you. Syria has been a national security issue to you. And so let me just follow up here. Jordan's been providing refuge to displaced Syrians now for a long time, while also having to deal with the Captagon-fueled drug trade that really enriched the Assad regime. How hopeful are you about the current situation in Syria? And what are you doing very specifically to support the transitional government at this point?
Absolutely. Just one last sentence on the West Bank and Gaza, if I may, is that I think with the Trump administration, with the involvement of Europe, with a leading regional role, as you alluded to, yes, we want to have a leading role in addressing the crises of our region, but that doesn't mean we don't need our partners and friends in the rest of the world. So we can complement each other. We will do the heavy lifting, and we need our partners to support. On Syria, look, I mean, again, as you mentioned, Jordan has been in the middle of all the crises. I mean, we've been at the receiving end of every crisis in the region. With Syria, we suffered in the past, not only in terms of drug trafficking, weapon trafficking, we've suffered economically. So now we have a new era, and I do want to believe, and I believe that the new administration in Syria, after coming to shoulder this responsibility, knowing the pain and suffering that their people have gone through, I do believe that they want to succeed, and I do believe that they know that in order for them to succeed, they need to win the trust of their people, and they need to win the trust of the region and the international community. That is, you know, to put it simply. So I think we have engaged very deeply with our Syrian brothers from the day go. We've had very, very good conversations. We have a lot of interests that are aligned. Now, terrorism is one common threat, and as Fuad said, we see Daesh rearming, regrouping. They've acquired a lot of weapons from the stockpiles of the Syrian army. That's a challenge to all of us, and we are already in discussion on how do we deal with that threat, not just among us, but also with our partners in Europe and the States, because that's a collective thing. Number two, drug trafficking is still happening to Jordan, and that's a tremendous a challenge. But again, we're in discussion with our brothers in the new administration, and we have the same interest here in ending that threat, because it is a threat to both of us. What we have to remember, though, is that I think we owe it to the new administration to be a little bit patient. They've just taken their responsibility. It's an enormous task to run a country that has been really broken down.
Yeah, but how long are you going to give them? How long do you think the region is going to give Syria? How much support will they get, and how long will they be given?
Look, we're very supportive. As you said, we have 386 kilometers of border with Syria. We're working together and making sure there's a flow of trade, a flow of connecting infrastructure, electricity, gas, flow of aid. All that is happening. We've also had very good meetings. We decided to form committees not just on trade and other issues, but also on security and defense, water issue. The Syrian regime violated our water rights. But then again, we're patient. We're not going to push our friends now and say we have to solve it. We've got to give them time. But I think, and we have this conversation in full honesty, because look, we have an interest in Syria succeeding, not just because we care about Syria, which we do, but because what happens in Syria will have a direct impact on us. If Syria succeeds, we all benefit. If Syria, God forbid, collapse into chaos, we will pay the price probably more than anybody else. So that said, I think they are saying the right things, as I said. I mean, they want an all-inclusive government that represents and fairly protects the rights of all citizens. They need to build the states, and we are fully supportive to them. I think they know the urgency of moving forward more than anybody else, and we're there to support
Minister,
them.
how would you describe the support that you're getting very specifically at present from Qatar and Turkey? What is the influence? What are you being told from Riyadh?
Yes.
Who's offering what at this stage?
Yes.
More than just we hope we will help as long as the new government looks like it's inclusive and it's going to work.
Yes, if you are interested in the Middle East, you can't ignore the importance of Syria. And if you want also to take authority of Syrian government, you can't ignore the concern of neighborhood. You understand our location, and also understand the neighborhood concerns. What we have been told in Riyadh and in all of our meetings in Damascus and abroad, that all the countries are interested in Syria, and they wish to Syria to be stable and secure, because the stability and the security of Syria, it will be its impact on the region. Of course, the infrastructure is destroyed by the Assad regime, and we understand the challenges, and we give the world a high expectation from our fast overthrow of Assad regime in 12 days, and we understand this, but the world also should be patient for us. Now we are just in 50 days, and of course we need a brilliant and a very good example of a new Syria, but we need also the support of international community and our country in our region.
You and I were at the same supper the other night with Javad Zarif, who wished the new Syrian leadership a lot of success.
Yes,
and this was his view, not perhaps a view from Tehran, but this was Zarif's view. He sort of overlooked the influence that Iran has had through its proxy Hezbollah, although he wouldn't admit to that, in supporting Assad in the past. But he certainly wished you the best. I wonder, how much are you prepared to have relations with Iran, if at all? What is your perception about where Syria should position itself with regard Iran at present? And to Minister Barrot, France, the UK and Germany have recently held talks with Iran aimed at potentially reviving the Iran nuclear deal. Javad Zarif told me at this same supper that Tehran is willing to engage with the new Trump administration, but insists that Washington must purchase its ticket back at the negotiating table, and he very specifically said the price has gone up. To which you say what? Let me start with you, and I'll come back to you, Assad. Let's start with Minister Barrot.
No, so earlier in the conversation, in the introduction, when you were speaking about the temperature itself generally, because we're seeing that there are different situations, even though they're all interconnected, and if the temperature seemed to have gone down across countries is also because the main source of temperature and instability has kind of broken down. And this is the Iran so-called axis of resistance.
Some will argue that Israel is also a reason for why we have had such significant temperature increases
well, you know,
across the region. But anyway, I understand your point.
The very significant temperature increase over the past 2 years is the 7th of October that Iran supported, and the 8th of October regarding Lebanon, which is the attacks of Hezbollah against the north of Israel.
Yeah.
No, this does not sort of preclude Israel and its responsibilities, but the fact is that the axis of resistance has largely broken down. With respect to Iran, again, a topic that we're clearly going to keep working on very closely because it touches upon our own security interests. The nuclear program would generate massive security issues for Europe and the rest of the world. The ballistic program of Iran now generates direct security concern for some European countries. And that's why we've expressed to Iran with the British and the German partners of the E3 our willingness to move forward with tough negotiation that start with a full assessment that we requested from the Board of Governors of IAEA, and that will be presented early in the spring.
Is it
and
your
that will
sense
be a point or a starting point for decisions to come.
Is it your sense that the Foreign Minister has been given the green light by the Supreme Leader to negotiate a deal with the US? First question, because my sense was from Zarif that actually indeed is the case. To you, Fuad, I wonder whether you have been asked to or would be prepared to mediate in any US-Tehran negotiations on a new deal. And overall, to the whole panel here, what are your hopes and fears for the Trump administration's policy towards Iran going forward? Just how important is it?
Listen, I hope he got a mandate because he has a mandate to negotiate with us. And in fact, I think this is the rational approach, because if it's not going to be a negotiation, incorporating nuclear program, ballistic program, and regional aspects, then what's the alternative? The alternative is back to brute force. And brute force is unlikely to generate any positive solutions either for the region, for Iran themselves, but even for us, Europe and the US, because it's unlikely that we can sort all the problems caused by these nuclear and ballistic programs by brute force only.
Fuad,
it is well known that we are well connected to Washington, but also to Tehran. So if we will be asked to mediate, we will do that. And it will be in the interest of Iraq, but also in interest of the region and international, in the interest of international peace. We have been asked in the past during Biden administration to mediate, and we did it. In fact, I can say that now, because it is part of the history. We organized the last meeting between the Iranian side and the American in New York. It was through us that we approached the American side and the Iranian, and they had their meeting in New York.
Before the rapprochement between Saudi and Iran, of course. So, I mean, there's clearly a Riyadh opportunity for mediating this time.
Riyadh and Tehran, it was in Iraq that we have all these meetings. And we were also between Tehran and many other countries, by the way.
We're out of time, so I'm just going to literally ask you all, do you have confidence that whilst it is clear that what Donald Trump's policy towards the Middle East is going forward will have huge consequences for the region, are you confident that the region, and again, I bring in Dateline Riyadh, Dateline Abu Dhabi, Dateline Doha and the rest, you know, this new era, this new dynamic of regional solutions for regional problems. I mean, I don't know anybody who shuttles around the region more than you do. as you felt cautiously optimistic about the lowering of the temperature across this region, what role the region for its own backyard?
Look, we're trying everything we can. I think we're offering solutions, I think, on the premise of a very clear policy objective, which is to ensure peace and stability and therefore prosperity for our peoples. That is the objective. And to achieve that objective, I think we need to put everything on the table very openly, very frankly. Palestinian-Israeli conflict is key. Unless we solve it, instability will continue to hover over our future. The key to solving that is two-state solution that fulfills the right of all. I think for Iran, the stakes are too high. And again, as Jonah well said, military solutions do not solve issues. They only lead to more conflicts, particularly if the root cause of conflicts are not addressed. And Iran needs to appreciate there's a new dynamic in the region now, which means that everybody's got to play by the rules and no meddling in the affairs of other countries and respecting for their rights. I think Syria, we've got to all rally behind the new administration to make sure that the support as they also do what's right for their people and rebuild and respect the rights of all. Lebanon needs the support. Terrorism is a new threat that we all have to keep our eyes on, and we need to work on that. So I think in the region, we're ready to do the heavy lifting to solve the crisis of our region. We need our partners, but I think we do need the understanding from our partners that we know our region well, we know what it takes to achieve peace, and we need to be given the space to offer our solutions and to be listened to and not talked at as we approach those challenges.
It's been a pleasure. I mean, 48 hours before the next stage of the first phase of the release of hostages in Gaza, the release of Palestinian prisoners in exchange, and the further surge in humanitarian aid. I guess I speak for this room when I say, you know, we all hope that this is going to work. I think if we can see progress, it seems to me, as we've been discussing, that if we can see progress on the ground in Gaza, that can cascade into a better atmosphere for at least, you know, a process for a solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and all of this cascades, of course, through the region. It is a busy region. It is all interconnected. 45 minutes is not anything long enough, but as Fuad said, he spent 45 years trying to lower the temperature in the Middle East. So, I mean, we were only going to skate across the surface, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Davos for you. Thank you.